بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده سبحانه ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله تعالى فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Inshallah, the next topic in the Minhaj al-Muslim book by Abu Bakr al-Jazairi Hafidahullah is about menstruation, hayd and nifas. And the topic, understanding hayd, is actually one of those topics that people don't talk about very much. Even though that there are a lot of things that are attached to hayd, a woman's menstrual cycle in the Sharia, that a lot of times, especially amongst the men, we're very ignorant of these topics. And then when we have family members, wives, sisters and so on in the house, and things come up, the man does or tells them incorrect things, or he doesn't know how to explain these rulings to his family members. And for this reason it's very important, and these topics don't repeat too often. So inshallah we'll try to pay attention. At the end of the class you'll get that little quiz that you've been so hoping for. I remember in my second Hajj, the second Hajj that I was doing, and the first Hajj I done by myself, or just with two brothers. Second Hajj, there was a group from our city, and there was an older sister that I respect very much, and she came and she asked me questions about this, menstrual, about hayd and its attachment to Hajj. And actually it gets very detailed at that. And I had just come from the university. In our faculty we were studying that topic, but when it comes to practical application of it, someone has a question here, someone has a question here, it just becomes blank, right? And so I said, look, I don't know any of the answers, let me go and find out. And so at lunch we were in Mecca, and there's a brother that from Jordan. He usually gets first overall every year in the university, out of about 500 students. And you should get friends like this. So I sat with him at lunch, and then instead of the chit-chatter, I said, look, I want to talk about just this subject. I'm going to ask you a question, just hit you with a series of questions. And he said, go for it. And then that whole lunch time we just went through the questions about hayd and its attachment to Hajj. Alhamdulillah, I learned a lot from that, and from those days I've been building on that knowledge. But it's still, it gets impractical when you don't live it, even though the sisters may know a lot more than the brothers on these topics. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about al-hayd in the Quran, and we'll be explaining what hayd is and what nifas is and so on in a little while. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about it in the Quran, saying قوله تعالى بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ويسألونك عن المحيض قل هو أذى فاعتزلوا النساء في المحيض ولا تقربوهن حتى يطهرن فإذا تطهرن فأتوهن من حيث أمركم الله إن الله يحب التوابين ويحب المتطهرين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْمَحِيضِ, and they ask you concerning the woman's menstrual cycle. قُلْ هُوَ أَذَى, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts speaking about it, and inshallah we'll go into this. And this is an issue, as we'll see, that the Sahabiyat used to ask about, and they wouldn't allow their shyness of this issue to not let them go out and learn about this topic. So they would actually send pieces of cotton to Aisha radiallahu anha that would have different colors of blood on it, and they would ask her, has my hayd completed or not? And Aisha radiallahu anha, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would teach his wives, and they in turn would teach the women about these things, and they would do practical. They would actually take pieces of their blood or samples, and then say whether the woman's hayd had completed or not. And another interesting fact is that Imam Malik rahimahullah, he would read about these topics, about specifically al-qussatul bayda, which is like a white discharge. And he would say that he went and he asked the women concerning this. Because when you're a man and you see like white discharge, you know nothing about it until like Imam Malik, he said, I went and he asked the women about it, and he goes, فَإِذَا هِيَ مَعْرُوفَةٌ عِنْدَهُنْ. And then I realized that all the women knew what this was talking about. Like he, as a man, rahimahullah, Imam Malik didn't know about this white discharge, and it seems like something like this doesn't exist until he said that he went amongst the women, and then when he spoke about it, it seemed that they all knew what he was talking about this white discharge. Hayd, the Arabic word for a woman's menstrual cycle is hayd, and it comes from the Arabic word halda. Like they'll say halda to sayd, like if there's a creek, and when the rainwater comes and the creek fills up with water and then it overflows, it's called halda. And from that, they say because of that overflow of blood, it's called hayd in Arabic, hayd. And Shaykh al-Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, and inshallah, like you'll see that book if I can get those books back. Inshallah, you're reading through it? Okay, you can keep that one. Give me the red one, inshallah. And afterwards, if you want to look through it, you can. Shaykh al-Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, he wrote this book. It was like a little essay about, it says here, the natural blood of women, which is a woman's menstrual cycle. And he says in the book that the topics have become like an ocean, because there's so many things that come up, and you'll see the scholars, they laid down foundations for this, and then medical things will happen that'll change. You know, as women start using birth control pills, they start using medication that changes their menstrual cycle, which then confuses the Islamic rulings based on that. To give you an example, the birth control pills that stop a woman from having her menstrual cycle. I mean, correct me if I make a mistake. When it stops the menstrual cycle, like a woman will say in Ramadan time, she wants to pray all the Taraweeh, so she'll take these pills to stop her menstrual cycle so that she can continue to do her salah all throughout the month. But as this woman may take the pill, rather than it stopping the blood, it can confuse the cycle so that she sees blood almost every second day or something in Ramadan. And so then she becomes confused. Is this hayd? Is it not hayd? One day she has blood, one day she's showering, one day she's clean, one day she's back with her hayd, and so on, confusing it. And then at that point they go to scholars like Shaykh al-Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, and they say, what's the hukm? And then, the confusion starts coming in because of these things. And normally, in the olden days, they would just have it. Their hayd is like this. It starts, it finishes, because of the natural environment that they're in. When does the hayd start? Some people would say that it may start at the age of 9, age of 11, and so on. But really, Islam doesn't attach a date or a age where the woman attains her, that she has to have hayd at this age, otherwise it's not hayd. In fact, you'll see like Shaykh al-Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, would base it upon the sighting of the blood or not. That if the woman sees blood and this is menstrual blood, then her menses begins, no matter what age she is. So even if she's like 6 years old, 7 years old, and so on, in those age groups, that it's still, if this is hayd, then it takes the rulings of hayd. And that's at what age that it starts. Now, when does the hayd end? Like a woman has her menstrual cycle, when does it end? Some people have attached days also to this. They'll say it's 10 days, it's 15 days, it's 25 days, and there's a lot of difference of opinion amongst the scholars when it comes to the days. But as Shaykh al-Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, say that it's not, we don't base it on the number of days, but what we base it upon is the sighting of the blood. So if she has her menstrual cycle, if she sees the blood, even if it's whatever day it is or how many days, if there's blood, this is her menstrual cycle. If there's no blood, it's not her menstrual cycle. Now, the minimum tuhr, or the minimum amount of days between the two menstrual cycles, again, there's difference of opinion about this, about the days, but the scholars have said, the majority of scholars have said that it's 15 days between one hayd and the other. 15 days between one and the other. So she becomes clean, and then she has 15 days after that before the next menstrual cycle begins. When it comes to like these issues, these are the ABCs of the fiqh of this. The ABCs of the fiqh of hayd and nifas. Because if one scholar and the other, one of them says 10 days is the minimum cleanliness between the two menstrual cycles, and the other one says 15, what if she sees her blood on the 12th day, for example? So one scholar will say that this is hayd blood, and so then the rulings of it apply. The other one will say no, it's not hayd blood. Just showing you that from this you have the branches of difference of opinion that will come later. Right? So just to show you that there are some fundamental things, like they'll say usul in these issues, that after it the difference of opinion comes up. So once you understand that there's a legitimate difference of opinion in this, you'll understand later on the differences of opinion that come up after that. Okay, so hayd, and I'm going to start using the Arabic words more. The hayd is a woman's normal menstrual cycle, normal blood that she has. If her blood is continuous, or the second main thing, okay, if her blood is continuous, then and it's just going all month long, and it keeps going month after month, that not all of it is hayd blood, not all of it is that menstrual cycle blood, but it's called istihada in Arabic. Istihada. And istihada is not the normal menstrual blood. For the Prophet ﷺ, a Sahabiya came to him and said that I bleed the whole month, and he said that that's not because if she bleeds the whole month, then she would think that I'll never pray and never do fasting. But he would say that no, only he said look at your cycle before this, like sickness came to you of you bleeding all that time. Look at your cycle before that, and then during that time consider that as the hayd, and the rest of the time consider it as a sickness that you just make wudu for every salah and pray regardless of any blood that's coming out. Okay, that's called istihada. When the blood is coming it's irregular, not irregular, but it's coming in not the normal blood that comes during the menstrual cycle. Okay, so that's hayd and that's istihada. And then the third one that we're looking at is nifas. Nifas is the blood that comes after a woman gives birth. That it'll come for about 40 days after a woman gives birth. So that's called nifas. So there's three things: hayd, which is the normal menstrual blood; istihada, which is the abnormal blood that comes out; and nifas is the blood that comes after a woman gives birth. And if you pay attention, I'm going to be reviewing it, inshallah. So that quiz is coming up. Okay. Some of the issues are the Islamic issues that are related to a woman's hayd. Number one is that intimate relations with a wife is haram. That's the main thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَاعْتَزِلُوا النِّسَاءَ فِي الْمَحِيضِ, that abstain from them during their hayd. Number two is that they cannot pray or fast. They cannot do their salah, they cannot do their sawm, and it won't be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if they did it while they're in their hayd. Number three is that they cannot do tawaf of the Kaaba. The Prophet ﷺ, he told Aisha radiallahu anha, when she had her menstrual cycle during Hajj, he said that إِفْعَلِ مَا يَفْعَلُ الْحَاجِ غَيْرَ أَن تَطُوفِي بِالْبَيْتِ. He said, do as the Haji does, except doing tawaf of the bayt, the tawaf of the Kaaba, right, as the proof. Number four is that she has to, when she's completed her menstrual cycle, she has to make up her siyam, and she doesn't have to make up her salah. And in this, Aisha radiallahu anha said that at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, we were commanded to complete the fast that we missed, and we were not commanded to make up the salah that we missed. Number 5 is that there's difference of opinion about it, but the majority of the scholars say that she cannot recite Quran, that she cannot sit in the masjid during her menstrual period. Inshallah, I'll explain a little bit more about that in the end. But there's difference of opinion about that, about not reciting the Quran and not sitting in the masjid. Number 6 is that she cannot be divorced in her hayd. And this is a very important point that a lot of people misunderstand. That if someone's married and he wants to divorce his wife, it's haram for him to divorce her, to pronounce the divorce, if she's in her menstrual cycle. It's haram. And not only that, but even when she's completed her menstrual cycle, he has to, if he's touched her intimately after she's completed her menstrual cycle, he's still not allowed to pronounce the talaq until he finds her in like a post-menstrual cycle which he hasn't touched her in. Okay, so like her menstrual cycle is over, now she just began the time after that, then he pronounces the talaq. Other than that, he would be doing something haram to divorce her in her hayd. And then number 8 or number 7, whatever number we're on, is that she has to take a bath when she's completed her menstrual cycle. As the Prophet ﷺ told one of the Sahabiyat, that he said, ثُمَّ اغْتَسِلِي, he said, then take a bath, وَصَلِّي, take a bath and go and pray. And number 9, that Allah, or the Sharia shows that it's a sign of a woman reaching her maturity, reaching puberty. The Prophet ﷺ said, لا يقبل الله صلاة حائض إلا بخمار, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not accept the salah of a woman who's attained puberty, and he said ha'id, who's gotten her menstrual cycle, إلا بخمار, except if she covers her hair. And that if she doesn't cover her hair in salah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala won't accept her salah. Okay, those are some of the issues. Now, if a woman is in her hayd or nifas, how to act with her. The Jews, actually, when a woman would be in her menstrual cycle, they would not eat with her, and they would not drink with her, and they would not associate with the woman during that time. And they, in fact, would lock her out of the house and disassociate anybody from, or no one would associate with her in any aspect of their livelihood because of her menstrual cycle. And so when the Prophet ﷺ moved to Medina, and the Ansar asked the Prophet ﷺ about how the Jews used to act with their women during the menstrual cycle, they asked him about the ruling of this, and the Prophet ﷺ received the verse وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْمَحِيضِ, and they ask you concerning al-mahid, concerning hayd, that this menstrual cycle, قُلْ هُوَ أَذَى فَاعْتَزِلُوا النِّسَاءَ, that it's adha, and so you should stay away from women. But what's meant there is in intimate relation. For the Prophet ﷺ, Aisha radiallahu anha would be in her menstrual cycle, and she would say that the Prophet ﷺ would sit with her and he would eat with her. In fact, she would eat from one place, like if they had some meat, she would take a bite and the Prophet ﷺ would bite from the same place. And also he would sit in her lap while she was in her menstrual cycle, rest his head on her leg, and he would recite Quran ﷺ, even though she was in her hayd. And you would see that a hadith such as the Prophet ﷺ telling Aisha radiallahu anha to go into the masjid and get his prayer mat. They used to have straw mats that they would pray on because of the harshness of the sand. And she would say that I'm in my hayd, I'm in my menstrual cycle. And the Prophet ﷺ would say that your menses isn't in your hand. It's not in your hand. Saying that it's permissible to enter into the masjid for a reason. Okay, so that's a little bit of how to act with her. Okay, when does the hayd end? Because hayd her woman's menstrual cycle goes, it gradually comes to a conclusion. Because of that, you see some confusion happening towards the end of whether that hayd has been completed or not. And so it comes to end when she sees, like in Arabic it said, al-qussatul bayda, which is a white discharge, a white fluid, and it's something known amongst the women, al-qussatul bayda. Number two, that if their hayd comes to an end, they need to take a bath and begin praying after that. And they shouldn't be lazy in doing such. Meaning that sometimes a woman, her menstrual cycle will come to the end and she said, oh, later on in the day I'll take a bath and start praying. Or she may say that, oh, there's only 20 minutes left for, dhuhr, let me just, there's not enough time to shower and pray, so let me just wait till Asr time. But no, if she has time to do that also, and she has time to pray, then she should do that, and she should not be lazy in fulfilling that. And if she's in a position where she can't find water to take a bath, such as if she's traveling or so on, that it's permissible for her to do tayammum instead of the bath and start praying. Do tayammum instead of the bath and start praying, and then later on when she gets in a position where she can't take a bath, she should take the bath. Number 3 or number 4, that the garments need to be cleaned. So if there's any garments, any clothes that have blood on it, they need to be cleaned. And after that cleaning, if there still remains a stain on the clothes, that it's still permissible to use those clothes. If it's been cleaned, that the stain after that, it doesn't harm anything. And number 5, and I think this may be a cultural practice that I guess a lot of Asian countries and other places, that they think that a woman has to change all her clothes if she's completed her hayd. And as Aisha radiallahu anha has said, and this is wrong. Like we said, a woman can have clothes, wash them and clean them, and then use the same clothes after that. She doesn't have to change all her clothes to then begin praying. Some people think that you have to take a bath and wear completely different clothes. And if they see a woman who's wearing some sort of dress in her hayd and then goes to take a shower and then wears the same dress, they'll say that's haram. They'll say that to her, but that's incorrect. The woman can still wear the woman can still wear the same clothes after that. And this is something that the women need to be pointed out to. If they're clean clothes and they've cleaned it, that it's permissible to use. As Aisha radiallahu anha has said, that there are many women that didn't have anything more than one garment that they would use. And actually you'll see some families where the husband and wife only had one garment. One like big cloth that they would use for salah. The husband would go out wearing the garment and go for salah, and then come back, and then the woman would need it to cover her head, cover her body during salah. That was the state they were in. So it would even be the hardship upon them to think that they would have to go and buy it. They didn't have a whole wardrobe and a whole closet full of different dresses that they would wear. Okay, a point about an-nifas, which is that blood that comes after a woman gives birth. They say that there's no minimal amount of days for the nifas to happen, meaning that you'll see that normally it's 40 days, but it can be lower than that. A woman can have blood for 10 days, 15 days, and then it just stops. And Shaykh al-Uthaymeen rahimahullah says that if that's the case, if she sees the blood and it stops, then she considered that her nifas blood is over, and she should begin praying after that. And it's not just she has to stop for 40 days. On the other side, the maximum amount of days, it's normally 40 days, but sometimes she may see blood after that for 50 days, 60 days. And they say that if the woman has hope that the blood is going to stop, then she should continue and consider it as nifas blood. She should, not pray, not fast, considering it as nifas blood, if she has hope that it's going to stop. If she doesn't have hope that it's going to stop, meaning she thinks that it's going to continue, and she has a sickness now after that, and the blood is becoming continuous, then she should consider it as istihada. If it becomes a sickness and then it just keeps going and going, the blood after that, then she considers it as istihada, which is that abnormal blood that we spoke about, where she has to, well, we'll get to the istihada right now. There are two rulings for the istihada. Don't worry, inshallah, we're going to review, I know. Just blowing you guys away, right? The two rulings for istihada are that number one, that she has to make wudu for every salah. And this is also the ruling of, it's similar to the ruling of someone who has salas al-bawl, someone who's he may urinate continuously. You know, you have adults that, you know, they have a continuous, they're continuously urinating in maybe in their pants or so on, that they have to make wudu for every salah. If it's a sickness where the blood or the urine keeps coming out. Similarly, if this woman, if the blood is continuously coming out, then she needs to make wudu for every salah. This is in istihada, we said, which is she has the normal cycle, and then after that she's in this abnormal blood that's coming out. She has to make wudu for every salah, and she also, prior to making wudu, she has to clean herself and use a pad, and then go and make wudu. So those two things. If a woman is in istihada, how does she determine what days? Istihada, we said that the blood is just continuously flowing for the entire month. What day should she consider as hayd, and what day should she consider as istihada? There's three situations based upon based upon a known cycle that she may have had in the past, or characteristic differences between the blood. If she had a known cycle, like she knows that at the beginning of the month for 6 days, every month she used to have her cycle, right? 6 days, every month 6 days, and then she's clean, 6 days, and then she's clean. And then all of a sudden, she gets this sickness where she's bleeding continuously, that, as the Prophet ﷺ said, she should base it on her old cycle. If this is her old cycle, she should base it upon it. So for those 6 days in the beginning of the month, she should act as if she's in hayd, and then for the rest of the month act as if she's in istihada, meaning that after those 6 days she should shower, and then after that for every salah make wudu, and every salah clean herself and use a pad. That's if she has a known period. Number two is if she never had a regular cycle, maybe from the very first time that she got her hayd, it just became continuous from the very beginning. So if she never had a cycle, or she doesn't know of any cycle, but she can see some characteristic differences in the blood, those characteristic differences could be in the thickness of the blood. It can also be in the darkness of the blood, and it can also be in the odor of the blood. So, for example, for 10 days of the month, she sees a blackish type blood, and then for the rest of the month, for 20 days, she sees a reddish type blood. So she can see a color difference in the blood. So she considers the blackish kind, the one that was the 10 days, as her hayd, and the rest as being her istihada. Or she sees for 10 days a thickness of the blood, and then for 20 days after that she sees a lightness of the blood. And so she considers the 10 days as her hayd, the 20 days as istihada. Or she smells a distinct odor that's similar to hayd blood in the first 10 days, and then after that 20 days it's odorless, for example. Okay, so that's the first one we said is if she has a known cycle. The second one is if there's characteristic differences in the blood. And the third one, if she doesn't have a known cycle, or she doesn't have characteristic differences in the blood, then she should go according to the average woman in her locality. The average woman in her locality. As the Prophet ﷺ told one woman whose situation was like this, he told her to sit 6 or 7 days fi ilm Allah in hayd, like according to the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah knows what her actual hayd is, but 6 or 7 days. And they say, the scholars, he said this to Himna bint Jahsh radiallahu anha, and he said, or they say that the 6 or 7 days wasn't an option for her to pick whether she wants 6 days or 7 days, but what they said is that he's telling her, look to the normal people around you and see, is the average 6 days amongst the women, or is the average 7 days, and then go by that, by the average. Okay. There's another point also about, in Arabic it's called as-sufra wal-kudra. Sufra coming from asfar. Someone know what asfar is? It's a color. If you're taking Arabic classes,
It's yellow.
it's yellow? Okay, good. It's yellow. As-sufra is yellowish type blood or yellowish discharge, and al-kudra is a brownish type discharge. As-sufra wal-kudra. Salama radiallahu anha, she says that at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we never considered as-sufra wal-kudra, these yellowish or brownish discharges, shay, that we wouldn't consider it anything and it wouldn't have any effect. Like this is the hadith of Salama radiallahu anha. In another hadith, Aisha radiallahu anha, a woman sent her this, like a piece of cotton that had like a brownish color, and then she said to them, don't be hasty in trying to complete your haid, wait till you see al-qusatul bayda, the white discharge. Okay, so now you have sufra and kudra. It can happen during a woman's haid towards the end, and it also can happen after the haid. So the scholars have said that if it happens during the menstrual cycle, this yellowish or brownish discharge during the menstrual cycle, that it's part of the haid. It's part of it, like she still is in her menstrual cycle. If she sees that kind of a discharge during her menstrual cycle, she should still consider it as part of the menstrual cycle. Then after that, after it's completed, she's showered, she's clean, and then she sees this yellowish or brownish discharge. After that, as-sufra wal-kudra, she shouldn't even look twice at it, meaning that it doesn't have any effect on her salah or her fasting. So if it's in the menstrual cycle, it's part of it. If it's out of the menstrual cycle, it's not part of it. Okay, in conclusion, and then we'll begin the quiz, 21 questions. The hukum of reading Quran and the hukum of sitting in the musalla. First of all, the sitting in the musalla, the Prophet ﷺ said that there's two main hadith. The first one that we spoke about was when he told Aisha radiallahu anha to go and get that prayer mat, that straw mat from the masjid, and she said that I'm in my haid, and he said your haid is not in your hand. Okay, and that's one hadith on this issue. A second hadith is an authentic hadith where the Prophet ﷺ commanded that the women be taken out to the Salatul Eid. He said that let all the women in the houses, let them come out and witness the Eid, even the women in their menses. And then the Prophet ﷺ said that except or وَلَا يَقْرِبَنَّ مَصَلَّانَا, but don't allow them to come to our musalla. That a woman is haid on Eid day, that she shouldn't come to the musalla. Like she can be in the area but not in the prayer place. Okay, so from that hadith, some scholars have taken to mean that any kind of prayer place, a woman shouldn't be sitting there for no reason. Like if it's just to sit in the masjid and do things in the masjid, they shouldn't do that. But if she needs to like pass through the masjid, get something from the masjid, has a reason and she's going through, that it's permissible, as Aisha radiallahu anha did. Some other scholars took the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, the one about her going into the masjid and he's saying that your haid is not in your hand, and leaned on that. And so they said that so long as the Prophet ﷺ allowed her to enter masjid, then she can enter masjid, for valid reason. That's just the issue there. But I'll tell you that the majority of scholars say that it's not permissible for her to sit in the masjid for no reason, just to lounge in the masjid.
In Haram Sharif or
anywhere?
Anywhere.
Any masjid in Musalla. In the Kaaba, actually there's some places, the Safa Marwa, specifically about the Kaaba, just a little point here. The Safa Marwa is not part of the Kaaba. And so if a woman is in her menstrual cycle and she's gone for Umrah and she can't complete the Umrah, she doesn't have to sit in her hotel room. She can go to the Safa Marwa area on the second floor and she can still, partake in, she can look at the Kaaba, she can see people doing their tawaf and so on. She doesn't have to sit in the hotel room necessarily, because the Safa and Marwa is not even part of the Kaaba area. It's outside of the Kaaba. Okay, so that's about sitting in the musalla. The other one is about the hukum of reciting Quran and touching the Quran. A lot of scholars have said that it's not permissible for a woman in her haid and a man who is junub to recite the Quran. Specifically with the man with junub, of course, he shouldn't be reciting the Quran. With a woman in her menstrual cycle, because it may take up to a week, 10 days, that she's in her cycle, that you'll see some scholars saying that if it's a necessity that she recites Quran, that it's permissible. Even though they may say that it's not permissible as a default, they'll say there may be situations where it is permissible. In one of those situations, this is like in the Maliki madhab, that they'll say that, for example, a woman, if she is a Quran teacher, and every day she has all these children where she's reciting Quran to them and teaching them, that if she wasn't allowed to read during her menstrual cycle, that for 10 days every month these children wouldn't get any lessons, as an example. So in those cases, and actually some scholars have gone into more detail of the hadith on this and have realized that they're not that strong about a woman not being able to recite in her hayd. And the hadith have been spoken about, and they're not conclusive in that it's not permissible for her to recite Quran. And so you'll see a lot of people who are now bringing out these sources and seeing, their chain of narrators going into the past and so on, are showing that it's not conclusive. And a lot of people have come to the conclusion that it is permissible for a woman to recite Quran during her menses. As on the other side of her touching the Quran, there may be more to it than just saying that it's permissible. And the sweeping majority of the scholars said that it's not permissible for her to touch the Quran. In conclusion to these issues, I'm not even touching the iceberg on the amount of discussion on these issues, but I'll just say some of the conclusions Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen rahimahullah and other scholars that I've spoken to have on this about sitting in the musalla. He said, as Shaykh Salah Sawi said, that she shouldn't be sitting in the masjid because of the next to unanimous opinion on this. About sitting in the masjid. The reciting the Quran, it is permissible for her to recite the Quran if there's a necessity for it. If there's no necessity for it, then it's better that she not recite the Quran, but it's still permissible. As for touching the Quran, she shouldn't touch the Quran if she's in her menstrual cycle. And with her bare hands, she can use like a glove, if she has glove. And the women, they have gloves and so on to turn the pages of the Quran. Okay, that brings to conclusion the points I have, and now we'll begin the grilling. Should we do the review first and then questions? I think the review so people can keep in mind what's going on. Okay. What is hayd? What is hayd? You got all the notes out. Do you know what it is, right? Okay. Everybody knows, nobody wants to say it. Okay, it's a menstrual cycle.
Every month.
Yeah, okay, that's the hayd. What's the istihada? Istihada.
You get wrong, abnormal.
Abnormal. Okay. Okay, actually, with the translation of when I said istihada, because sometimes the menstrual cycle will come out of normal, but it's still her menstrual cycle. So for example, if she has like 6 days, and then one time she has 10 days, it's still hayd, even though it may be abnormal, right? When we say istihada, it means completely, like a sickness where it just continues the whole month. But still, if she still sees blood 10 days, 12 days, even though her normal is 6 days, it's still hayd blood until it becomes, obvious this is something other than her hayd. And the third one was nifas. You know what nifas is, brother?
After childbirth.
After childbirth, postnatal bleeding. Okay. Second question that comes up: what issues are related to the hayd? What issues in the Sharia are related to the hayd?
Prayer and the salah.
The salah and the fasting. Correct. Other ones? Mentioned like 9 of them. Reciting Quran, sitting in the musalla. Yeah.
Divorce.
Divorce. You can't divorce a woman in her hayd. Yes. Intimate relationships. Al-jima'. فَاعْتَزِلُوا النِّسَاءَ فِي الْمَحِيضِ. Correct.
And you said not touching the Quran.
Yeah. She cannot.
Even if she studies.
Even if she studies, she doesn't need to touch the Quran with her bare hands. She can use like a glove or a pen to turn the pages, but not touch the Quran. And like I said, there's difference of opinion about that, but because so many scholars have said that she cannot, there's a sweeping majority. So in respect of all those scholars that have come to this conclusion, that we say this. This is the opinion of Shaykh al-Uthaymeen, rahimahullah. Other ones? No tawaf. She can't do tawaf. Other ones? We said...
She can do what?
Yeah, tawaf. Tawaf of the Kaaba. Tawaf.
It's also a sign of puberty.
It's a sign of puberty and the I guess 7th or whatever.
It's covered here.
During prayer. That she needs to take a bath when she's completed. When she's completed her hayd. Okay, how to act with her during a menstrual cycle, during the hayd. Or how did the Jews used to act with their women? Ostracize them, kick them out, not eat with them, not drink with them, and they're like...
Normal behavior.
Yeah, normal behavior except intimate relations. Okay. And the examples that we gave, that Aisha radiallahu anha, he would sit in her lap, he would recite Quran, and he would also eat with her, and sometimes eat from the very same place that she ate from, the same piece on the meat. And he also told her that your hayd isn't in your hand when he asked her to go and get the mud rug or the carpet from the masjid.
And he used to keep them out? Who used to keep them out?
Kick them?
Jews.
Yeah.
The Jews.
The Jews, yeah.
No.
There are some non-Muslim religions also, Hindus and all, they don't consider it as and they, not now, but at one time, they did not allow her to, stay in certain part of the house, and they consider unclean and not clean. So there are some other than Jewish, of course now they don't do it. They can't enter the kitchen, can't cook for the family. They just have to isolate her at one time. So these are some other religion, but also.
Yeah, and doing things like that in Islam would be against Islam.
Right.
Some, like you're saying, maybe a Hindu, maybe some Muslims pick up from that and start treating them in the same way, which would also be haram. Okay, when does it end? We had that topic of when does it end? When the white discharge, al-qussatul bayda, right? The white discharge is known with the women. Number 2, about taking the bath. What did we say about taking the bath?
As soon as possible.
As soon as possible. And they shouldn't delay it and be lazy in performing it to get the thing.
Now the bath is a regular ghusl.
Ghusl, yeah. Just a regular. Remember that class we did a long time ago? How to do a ghusl? How to take a bath? And then we said about the garments. What did we say about the garments and the stains on it? It can be cleaned, and as Aisha radiallahu anha say that they would only have one garment. Sometimes they would spit on it and scratch the stains until it would be clean, and then use the same garments after that.
So only the undergarments that have the stain.
Yeah, I guess other parts of the clothing may have stains too. Right, if it gets on a dress or something like that, anything that has a stain needs to be cleaned. And of course they wouldn't have the same, maxi pads and things like that in those olden days, so it might get a little, more garments would get dirty because of that. And then we also said about the garments that she doesn't have to change the garments. That if she has a dress or something, if it's clean, that she can continue to wear it after she has a bath. Okay, an important point about the mustahada, the one who gets that blood that just keeps flowing for the entire month. What's the ruling concerning her? What's the ruling concerning her? Istihada. When it comes to salah, should she pray or should she not pray? She should pray. Yes.
Wudu each time.
She makes wudu each time. Only wudu, or is there something else? She has to clean herself and then put on a pad and then make wudu. So it's not just make wudu and go pray. She has to clean herself and then put on a pad and then make wudu after that.
Take a shower?
No, just maybe go to the bathroom and clean herself. Maybe just on in the toilet area, but she doesn't have to take a shower. And we said, just reviewing about istihada, how she determines what days are her hayd and what days are not. Number one is that if she has a basic cycle that she had before, she should continue, even though she has blood the whole month, she should go by that old cycle she has. Otherwise, she should go by characteristics in the blood, such as the thickness or the color or the odor, or if she doesn't have either the cycle or the characteristic differences, she should go according to the average woman in her locality. Which brings us to our conclusion. Jazakumullah khairan. If there's any questions? No.
I explained this way. You said during her hayd, she would just cover her head and do prayer.
During her hayd what?
During her hayd period, she can cover her head and go ahead and pray. Did I hear you right?
Aywa. Okay. I think the point that you're making is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he said, لا يقبل الله صلاة حائض إلا بخمار. What he's saying, ﷺ, is that Allah will not accept the salah of a woman in hayd except if she's wearing a hijab. When he uses the characteristics of hayd, he doesn't mean a woman who is in hayd, he means a woman who has had her hayd and has now attained puberty. Like using the word hayd as a synonym for puberty.
Okay.
But not saying that she's in the position of hayd.
But she's supposed to cover her head anyway.
Yeah, correct.
But after the puberty,
No.
Before puberty,
maybe may not.
No, but she has to cover her hair, but if she's at home by herself, she still has to cover her hair for salah.
but even that she has to do it anyway.
This is the proof for that. No. Like if she's in the house,
I don't see the significance.
No. If somebody is 10 years of age,
no.
has not attained puberty,
Mhm.
and she's praying with her parents, then she still has to, it's mandatory for her to cover her head.
Yeah. No, okay, the difference here is that like a young girl, say she's 4 years old, she's praying. If she doesn't wear hijab, she can still go with that.
Right.
But if she's reached puberty and she still tries to pray without hijab, her salah won't be accepted. Because like the point here of quoting a hadith is saying that hayd was a sign of her reaching
It's a
puberty.
milestone.
Yeah. So, meaning that now she becomes responsible for her actions after that. You know, it's one of the signs.